Yes, this next upcoming course, we will be going over that. Is this not a course for new board membership? No, this is not a course for board membership. Condo certification, no. All right, guys, 10:15. Good morning. Welcome back. For those of you that are coming back with us, welcome back. For those of you that are just joining us, welcome to Beyond the Boardroom. I'm Diane Michael with my partner and friend, my CAM partner, Lindsay Lombardi, who will be going over a presentation today. If this is your first time with us, welcome. Welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. For those of you that aren't familiar with our program, just real quick, we've created Beyond the Boardroom to educate board members and CAMs in an easy way at your desk, on your mobile, while you're traveling. We want it to be education to be digestible so that you keep coming back. We know how important education and CE credits are, and that's exactly why we decided to launch the Beyond the Boardroom program. We started on the fourth Wednesday of each month and have already grown to now offer education and CE credits on the second and fourth Wednesdays. So please mark your calendars for the next webinar Wednesday happening on February 25th with one CEU for HR, one for insurance, and one for OPP. That is in the chat. Go ahead in the chat and scroll up and you'll see it. I'll also put it in there again. Keep watching our emails for the most updated education information. We send out emails once a week. And if we have any kind of scheduling change, we always go to who has been registered and we communicate directly with those who are registered. And then if not, we send out an email to all the people in our database. So if you see an email and you miss it, you may be missing or you just delete it or it's in your spam and you haven't added us as a safe sender. You may be missing out on important information that we're not always going to be able to answer during a setting like this. So please be watching for those email newsletters that come through your inbox. And please let your fellow board members and CAMs know about the program. Most of our programs are for CAM credit, and we are working on getting more and more classes for board member credit. We did an HOA board member certification last week with Martell and Ozum and had a couple hundred board members attend. And without further ado, I would like to introduce my partner, Lindsay Lombardi. She's going to do a presentation that's amazing for board members and also CAMs. I always like to introduce Lindsay as being from all vantage points when it comes to CAM relations. She's worked for corporate management companies. She's worked with family-owned management companies. She's been a portfolio manager. She's been on site. She owns her own management company. She's a well-versed CAM, and I enjoy working with her as a partner here in Beyond the Boardroom. Welcome, Lindsay.
Thank you, thank you. So, this course I did last week for during the HOA certification, and I think that a lot of board members got a lot out of this. So, I'm going to go through the Dominion Management Coastal Living part quickly, since most of you are CAMs here, not board members. But as most of you know that attend our webinar Wednesdays, I own Coastal Living Association Management. And in recent months, I have partnered with Dominion Management Solutions and am managing properties under their company instead of my own. I'm still using my company for the education outreach. But we have a very similar outlook on association management. We do things a little bit differently. We choose to separate the accounting and the management so that it gives board members and associations a little bit more flexibility. Um, Same corporate, um, I guess, outlook that everyone has in the bigger companies. We look at things a little bit differently and we want to focus specifically on just the management. We don't want to deal with the accounting on a day-to-day basis. So that's why we both have the outlook and the partnerships with accounting firms that do association accounting only. And so, because of both of our outlooks and opinions on management, we again joined together to grow their business into my area, which is the Volusia County Flagler area. Um, so. This is their contact information. If you are a board member and you're looking for proposals for management services are interested in what we offer, this is our information. You can also go to dominionmsi.com and get that information there as well. You can also reach out to me at the email address that most of you have for me, at Coastal Living. And we are, like I said, they are looking to expand, but with the format that we use, separating the accounting and the association management, we are able to manage statewide. All right, so my course is more about basically what Diane and I call the evolving document. So every association has items that, one, they need to make sure they have easy access to information, as well as inspections and requirements that are due on an annual basis. And now with the new requirements for the structural integrity reserve studies, that even adds more to what the responsibility is as a CAM and a board member. So I use, again, what I call an evolving document for all of my associations, and this helps me and board members make sure that we're informed and staying up to date on everything that we're required to do during an annual an annual basis. So CAMs, we all know you don't need to be at a desk 24/7. I really have the opinion that, a CAM's time can be best spent out in the field. I am not the person that likes to sit in an office on site 40 hours a week. I think that that's not the best use of my time. I know sometimes we obviously have to be in the office answering emails and phone calls and getting proposals and doing all those things. But if we're managing multiple properties, our best use of time is to go to those properties and make sure that everything's running smoothly. There's no violations, those types of things. So I think that that's an important message to send to board members, is just that, make sure you're using your CAM for what you should use your CAM for. And then always set expectations on what you expect from your CAM. Do you expect weekly reports? Do you expect monthly reports? What do you expect? And same for CAMs, make sure that the board understands what you're providing to them, and that they're not expecting something from you that, you're not prepared to give. Or, again, if they want a weekly report, but you're giving a monthly report, if they don't tell you that, then you don't know. Okay, so this document is what we call the roadmap for every association. And the first thing would be the general property information. Obviously, this is standard. The property name, whether it's an HOA or a COA, what's the address, so whether or not they have the physical address is a clubhouse, whatever the physical address is. And then you also may have a separate mailing address, and you can put that on there as well. How many units? Sometimes it might be how many buildings, if there's multiple buildings. And then what year was it built? Okay, so for accounting, these are important things to know. And the best part about this document is if you keep it updated, as new board members come in, you're able, as the CAM, to provide this document to them, and it gives them a screenshot of what's going on, and you don't have to explain everything to 5 different board members, in a detailed situation. So you can provide this document, they can review it, and then they can come back to you and ask questions. But essentially, everything that they need as far as the basic information for the association is going to be on here. So how many cost centers do they have accounts at? How many bank accounts do they have? Is there a credit card or a debit card? We always say not to have a debit card. I know some people still do it. Associations do sometimes have credit cards for like a Home Depot account or something. So are there credit cards? Who has them? And what are they used for? Are there investment accounts? Now with having to fully fund reserves for structural items, there's associations that maybe didn't have a lot of money sitting in bank accounts before because they liked to operate on the special assessment, which we don't recommend. But now all of a sudden they have this money sitting in a bank account, and if you put it in an investment account, you can collect some interest on that money. It's a good way to bring in more cash flow. Depending on how much money is there, it could be a significant amount on an annual basis. So you definitely want to look into those options. If you have money that's sitting in a reserve account that you're not using right now, the interest does have to stay in the reserve account, but it's money that you're making off of your money, which is always helpful in an association. How many bills are paid per month? So this is important whether um, for many reasons. One, a treasurer needs to know how often they need to be looking at approving bills, and how many they should expect to see in a monthly on a monthly basis. And then if you're an association that's going out there looking for new management or accounting, this is something that would be information that those companies that you're going out to get proposals for is going to want, would be part of what's on here. So, are your dues paid monthly, quarterly, or annually, and how much are they? Are there any current special assessments that the association is collecting? And if so, how long is that special assessment? Is it for 1 year? Is it for 6 months? Is it 3 payments? What is that, and how often is it paid? Do you have any employees? If so, how many? And how is the payroll processed? Is that done by your management company? Is it done through a payroll app? How do you pay your association employees? So again, screenshot of your accounting, great to have. If there's a new CAM coming in, if you do work with a management company, a lot of times they'll shuffle their book around at the end of the month, or at the end of the year, I'm sorry, and they have to, if they bring in new associations, they need to kind of figure out, okay, I have this manager that's going to these different places, but now I want to bring them more into this one area. So let's see, I'm going to give them these associations. So this is good information for those CAMs so that they can quickly make sure that they're up to date on your property and can start, managing right away without having to ask a bunch of questions. All right, your meeting schedule. When is your annual meeting? So most of your annual meeting is going to be generally dictated by your association document. So it's going to be the same time every year. So when is that annual meeting? The first notice, generally for condos, has to be sent out 60 days prior. So you're going to send that first notice. What is the date that has to be sent by? What is the date that the second notice has to be sent by? Important things, because you don't want to miss that. Because if you miss the date, then you have to change the annual meeting date, and you're really not supposed to do that. So those are really important. The end of the year always gets crazy. No matter how many times you think you're on top of things, you did your shopping early, you're ready for the holidays. For CAMs and for associations, that's when you're sending out the annual meeting notices, you're trying to work on budget. So things get crazy real quick. You want to have this as a reference to make sure you don't miss an important date on a mailing. The same thing for the budget meeting and the approval. Budget mailings should go out 30 days prior to the meeting. Some associations do allow 15 days before, but it's really good to give your members the ability to look over that budget and have time to plan to be at the meeting if they have questions. I always think 30-day notice on a budget meeting is great because you can always have, like we say, communication is key, right? So you want to make sure that the owners can see what's going on and they don't feel like they got this and now the meeting's in 3 days and they don't have time to schedule to be there and they have concerns. So something that I think is important. And then also keep in mind at the end of the year, you have everyone trying to get out coupon books. So the banking institutions and whoever's doing that for you is backed up on getting those printed and mailed out. And most associations, your first payment is due January 1st. So if you don't approve your budget until December 15th, well, your coupon books are probably not even making it to the board members before, halfway through January, because usually it's about a month lead time on getting those printed and out. So the first month, your payments are late. So you want to make sure that you stay on top of the budget approval, scheduling those workshops and getting that scheduled for around, I would say, I try to get all mine done by November 15th, unless it specifically states that they're held with the annual meeting and there's a date on that. And then when does your fiscal year start? Most associations, it's January through December, but there are some associations that start in April, is the beginning of their fiscal year. So that's important to know because obviously that's when a new budget would take effect. So if your budget takes effect for the start of the year in April, you probably are looking at more February budget meeting date. And then how often are you going to have your board meetings? Do you have them monthly? Do you have them quarterly? Do you live in a small association where you only meet when it's necessary and then you have your annual meeting? What is your schedule on that? And then if you're in an association that has a monthly board meeting, it's great to do it like the same day every month. So maybe it's the second Tuesday, maybe it's the third Wednesday, but if you can set a standard, you'll get a lot more attendance from the ownership, which is always good because, again, we want to make sure that the owners in the association are staying informed and don't feel like they're in the dark. Okay, important information. Board members. Who are your board members? When were they elected and what is their term? Some associations have 1 year terms, some have 2 year terms, some have staggered terms. So maybe a president is elected 1 year, maybe they're elected in 2024 and their term is 2 years, and then the treasurer would come up for reelection the following year, and they also have a 2 year term. So you're not turning over the officers of the board every year. That's also great if your association has the ability to do that. It's a little tricky. You got to make sure you keep up with the dates and the years so that you make sure that you run your elections properly with the seats that are open. But at least it's not like you're transitioning everyone, right? So we all know as CAMs, you got to get new bank signature cards done. You have to get, if there's a credit card, a new credit card, you have to do all those things. So if you have some board members that are retained and some that are changing, you can still do your daily business until you get all the paperwork done for the new members, because the members that are still have a term for another year are able to conduct business until you get the other board members signed up on all the portals and at the banks and all those things. And then obviously property manager, the company, who your CAM is, that's all super important information. What's their 24-hour emergency line? If you have a pool house or a clubhouse, is that 24-hour emergency number posted there? You know, something could happen. There could be a leak at the building. There could be an emergency, the pool overflowing, anything. So make sure you have that emergency number either provided to all of the residents or posted somewhere in case of an emergency. And then obviously you want to make sure that you can get a hold of your manager when necessary. So you want to make sure you have all the contact information. If you have a different contact for the accounting person, obviously that would be on here. If you have a bookkeeper that you work with directly, any information that has to do with the management of your association as far as the management, CAM, and accounting is concerned. All right, then the vendor directory. Super important. Again, if you change CAMs, if the board changes, this is all information that is great to have to pass along to whoever's coming in. This will help make for a smooth transition. It will help if your CAM's out of town for a board member to be able to take over and contact a vendor if needed. It will help if you have a CAM that's out for a medical reason. Maybe they're on maternity leave. Maybe they had to take some time off to be with a sick family member. This is information that the manager that's taking over has immediate access to. So again, always important. What landscape company are you using? Who is your contact person? What is their phone number? The same thing for everything else. Very important for your fire service, because if you have a sprinkler leak, you want to get a hold of them right away. If your fire alarms are going off, you want to make sure you can get a hold of someone right away. And then you have painting, plumbing, electrical, fence, entry gate system. Super important. If your gate is locked and residents can't get in and out, obviously that's kind of an emergency. So you want to make sure you have information on who to contact in those situations. Annual maintenance. So this is important because annual maintenance is required on a lot of association equipment, more so for condos than for HOAs. But if you have a clubhouse, a lot of these things will apply to you as well. So your sprinkler system, fire system, these require annual inspections. They also require quarterly inspections. So super important. If you let one of these inspections go by and you don't get it done, and God forbid something happens and something malfunctions, that's going to be on you because you're required to have these done. So a lot of times the fire marshal will come out and check properties to make sure that these inspections have been completed, but you want to make sure that you stay on top of it. It's always the worst call when you get a call from the fire marshal and he's like, hey, you're 3 months past due on the inspection of your fire pump booster. And then you're like, oh my gosh. And sometimes you have to go on fire watch until you get it inspected. That's never a fun thing to have to do. A lot of times they'll give you, a couple days to get it done, but it's important that you stay on top of that for sure. I mean, that's life safety equipment. You don't want to ever have an issue with that. Certificate of insurance, this is something that you have to do every few years. It's essentially an evaluation of your property to see the value, replacement value, all that type of information. And you need that in order to get accurate coverage for your building, your property, any common areas. We've seen in the past, in recent years with hurricane damage, you know, so important that all this information is up to date because you want to make sure that your property is covered. Um, Structural integrity reserve study, now required. You have to have that done. You have to have it updated. That's something that you have to file with the state now. So if you are in a condo building and you haven't had that done, you're past due. But pretty much, I think everyone's had it done at this point. But make sure that they stay updated because it is a requirement to keep it updated. It's also a requirement to get any of the work done that they say is due to be done. And this is where those special assessments have come into place because associations did not reserve properly and didn't have the adequate funds to get some of this work done. Wind mitigation, this is for your roof. Um, Condo buildings, you do have to do it regularly for your insurance. They'll usually request it. It is a good thing to do because it usually lowers your price as a homeowner. I know this came out in a lot of renewals recently over the last couple years just because of the cost of insurance. But wind mitigations are not a bad thing to do as a homeowner because they can help with lowering the cost of your insurance because it will show that your roof is in great condition. Now, if your roof's not in good condition, you may not want to get it, but definitely something that you need to keep updated as an association. Balcony inspections, these are more for condominiums that have rental units. So obviously the balconies are inspected during the SRIS inspection, but this is something that you actually have to submit to the DBPR when you're applying for a 509 license, which you're required to have if you rent your condominium, short-term rentals. So not something that's necessarily an association's responsibility, unless the association runs a rental program. If so, then the balcony inspection would be the responsibility of the association through their rental program. Irrigation testing, most of you that have landscape contracts, this is usually done on a monthly basis. But you definitely want to make sure if you don't have a landscape contract that includes that you're definitely minimum doing quarterly inspections on this. A lot of associations use wells. So you always want to make sure that you don't have an issue with the well because if there's a problem with the well, then obviously water's not going to get to the sprinkler system. So the sprinklers won't be running. If you're not testing them, you won't know if the water's flowing or not. Booster pump. Again, this is something that's more for a condominium building. When you get past the first few floors, if you don't have a booster pump, the water is going to trickle out of the faucets. So booster pump, definitely want to make sure those get inspected, keep those in good working order so that everyone on the upper floors has flowing water. Water pump inspection, again, depending on what type of water pump, you might have a pump for your fire system, you might have a pump for an irrigation system. Those you want to make sure that you keep up with the inspections on. And then something that I always add is trash chute cleaning. I think we all that live in condos, visit condos, manage condos, can attest to opening that lovely silver trash chute door, and the smell that can come out of there sometimes is about enough to knock you out. So scheduling quarterly, at least annually, but I suggest quarterly trash chute cleaning is such a great thing to do. There's companies that do this, and it does make a difference. All right, so that wraps up most of that. So basically, to sum everything up, this is an important document. Happy to provide it to any of you CAMs that, would like the template, if you don't have one already. But it's a great thing that you can use, your maintenance person can use, the board has. It's just a great reference, quick reference, keep a little if you're a portfolio manager, I always kept a binder and I had, different associations in there and all the information, and that kind of stayed in my car, stayed in my work bag. And whenever I was out and about, if there was an emergency or an issue for a property, I could pull that out and immediately have the information right there at my fingertips. So just a good thing to have, no matter whether you're a portfolio or you just manage a couple of associations. But it has been helpful to me a lot of times. And when I've been out of town and someone was covering my properties, I could literally hand them the binder and there they go. I don't need to give them a whole bunch of information other than just hand that over, and they've got everything they need for while I'm gone. So, some things to think about: defining roles and responsibilities at your properties. So important. What's the manager responsible for? What's the maintenance staff responsible for? How do you work that out? Is the maintenance guy walking the property every day and reporting to the manager? Is the manager walking the property every day and telling the maintenance person what they need to do? How are you going to work that out? Board members and managers, who's going to do what? Some boards are really hands-on and they want to go out and meet with the vendors and get the proposals, and that's great. A lot of board members don't want to do that. So that's why they have hired a manager. So who's responsible for what? Super, super important to make sure, again, that you're defining those roles. You want to make sure that everyone's expectations are set as a can. You sure don't want to think that the new director that came in that's taking over for someone who basically managed the landscape and walked with the landscaper and reported things. You don't want to assume that the new person coming in is going to do the same. You don't want to get to that meeting and them ask, what's going on with the landscape, and you don't have an answer. So always important to communicate and make sure that everyone's roles are defined. What does the board expect, and what do the owners expect on response time? What can you guarantee as a response time? Is it 24 hours? Is it next day? Is it before end of day? What does that look like? Again, on the reports, how often do you provide reports? Weekly, monthly? And meeting attendance, important. When you're going out and talking to properties, taking on new properties, board members coming in, maybe they're out of town for half the year, as a board member looking to run. So it's important to communicate. Can they attend meetings virtually? Do they have to attend meetings in person? Is there a way for them to, as an owner, to attend virtually? Maybe they can't speak. My association, there's a Zoom link. You can log in, you can look, you can listen, but you can't speak. You can't ask questions. It's just for viewing, and that's fine. At least the members have the ability to attend when they're not able to. A lot of meetings are at night. They have sporting events for kids. They got to get dinner ready. They got stuck at work. Maybe they don't want to go out at night. There's some people have a hard time driving at night. So maybe it's been real cold lately. Maybe they don't want to get out in the cold. So if they're able to attend virtually, even if they can't participate, to be able to get the information is so important for homeowners, and it makes them really feel like they're included. Because a lot of times in associations, I think owners feel like things are trying to be done in the background and kept from them, when really, we can make it to where they're able to participate, at least to know what's going on in the association. Always work together. It's not board versus CAM. It's not board versus homeowners. The board members are there and responsible to make the best decision for the owners and residents of that association. And the CAM is there to help the board members and guide them to make sure that they're doing things within what's required by law, doing it the right way, and helping them by giving them the best contacts for vendors, making sure that vendors are holding up their side of what they're supposed to be doing. And if we all work together, it can be a great relationship. And I think a lot of times, I know CAMs get a bad name. I know board members get a bad name. So again, communication, communication, communication. Be open, be honest, be upfront, and all work together, because we're all trying to accomplish the same thing. So really, homeowners, board members, CAMs, we should all be working together, not against each other. And I know it doesn't always happen, but you see the videos. It's always, the videos that they put out there on social media crack me up sometimes. All right, so thank you all again. Dominion Management Solutions is who I'm working with now as far as association management goes. They're great. Love the owners. They've become some of my favorite people in a very short period of time, Fernando and Julie. and they're wonderful. Everyone there is, they're all hard workers. We partner with great accounting teams and firms. And if you're looking for a management company, we would love to hear from you. And CAMS, I'm always here as a resource through Coastal Living. If you have questions, if you need help, if you need guidance, we at Beyond the Boardroom obviously are here to provide you with as much education as possible at no cost to you and board members. We're working on that for you. We're working with the DBPR. It's been a little testing, but hopefully we'll have that worked out in the next couple months and be able to provide a little bit more of the board member education side as well. But board members, even though doesn't count as board member credit, we're always providing useful information for you to guide your association and provide them the best leadership possible. So definitely always tune in whenever you're able because it's great information.
Awesome, Lindsay. I have a question here. If you, this was earlier in the presentation, if you have any special percent discount accounts with stores, should this be listed? If so, where? Notes.
So I mean, I guess I'm a little, I mean, is this like a Home Depot or if you have, I mean, if your association has some kind of special discount, if you live in a certain community, then yeah, you would want to post it on your association's website. If you have a social media page, you could share the promo code there. You could put it on the agenda when you post the agenda for the meetings. Wherever the most homeowners are going to see things, that's where you would want to post that information.
And then I'm going to email you. Someone asked for the template, unless you had an opportunity to put it into the chat for everybody. Um,
If you'll, yeah, next time I'll do that, but I don't have a way to really put it in the chat right now. So, um, if you want the template, yeah, just send me an email and I will send it your way.
and I will